Welcome to the show. Thanks for being with us another week. Looking forward to this week's show. I'm going to have my guest with me later on, Mark Thomas, Belmont County Commissioner. We'll talk about all things happening in Belmont County. But first, let's start with some usual features, although they've been left out a little bit in recent weeks. I want to get back to them. And we'll start off with Community Champion this week, and actually be two people. And that's my law partner, Scott Blass, and his wife, Kathy. For many years now, they were the founders of the Ohio Valley Breast Cancer Awareness Group, and for the 12th year in a row, they just recently put on the Driving for a Cure golf scramble up at Oglebay, and had another great turnout and great weather this year for October. And they raise money that goes to such a worthy cause. They provide items to women who are going through breast cancer treatments for things that health insurance oftentimes doesn't cover. Special bras, things that allow them to be more comfortable when they're going through chemotherapy, and all the other things that maybe insurance does not pay for these women who are going through a very difficult time. And so they raise a lot of money through that Driving for a Cure golf scramble. They've done it 12 years in a row, and it's helped a lot of people. So I want to mention them as this week's community champions here on the Jamie Bordas Show. Great job to Scott and Kathy Blass and all of their committee members who help out with that Driving for a Cure golf scramble. Next up, a quote this week. And this comes from one of our former presidents, Calvin Coolidge, and he said, "All growth depends upon activity. There is no development physically or intellectually without effort, and effort means work." And I especially want to emphasize that last part, effort means work. So many people want things to happen. They want to see the local economy do better. They want to see themselves do better in their personal lives, their professional lives, whatever it may be, but they don't want to put in the effort and the work that it takes to see those things happen. And things can't just happen overnight. Things can't just happen because you want them to happen. I see this even with kids. I try to tell my own kids, look, if you want to be better, if you want to have this position, if you want to do this, you better work harder. You better go out and practice. You better do whatever it takes to get ahead, as opposed to just wanting it to happen. And I think that's something we can remember as adults too, is that if you want something to happen, you have to work toward it. And one of the best ways to do that is to write down on a piece of paper your goals. My dad has always encouraged me to do that. He said, if you want to achieve something, write it down on a piece of paper, write what your goals are, and then also write down how you're going to achieve those goals. How are you going to get there? You may want to be a lawyer, that I wanted to be when I was growing up. Well, how are you going to get there? Well, you better study hard, you better get good grades, you better make sure you apply to the right schools, do all the different things you need to do. But you have to write down your goals, and you have to say, okay, how am I going to achieve those goals? And then work toward them, and go back and look at those goals on a regular basis and say, how am I doing towards achieving those goals? How am I progressing along here? So I think that's something we all need to remember. So I think it's a great quote by Calvin Coolidge. Next up, a tip, not so much a legal tip this week, but just a general tip, and that is make sure that you properly install child safety seats. I just had my 6th child, which is very difficult for me to believe. If you would have told me 10 years ago that I would have 6 kids, I would have laughed pretty hard. I would have thought, not much chance of that. Now, I married a very wonderful woman, my wife Stacy, who loves children, and I do too, but she does so many things to raise them. I just try to help out when I can and not screw things up. But the one thing that I have learned, and one of the things that I really try to take responsibility for in the family, is making sure that those child safety seats are properly installed, because there is a right and a wrong way to do it. And you want to make sure that they're secured very tight. You don't want to just put them in and belt them in, and then they're loose and they're able to be kind of jumbled all over the place. You want them to be so tight in there that they can't possibly move. And you want to make sure that the restraints are at the right height on the shoulders. You want to make sure that the seat is not expired. Many people don't realize that car seats actually do have expiration dates on them. And so you want to check those and make sure that it's not expired. I know oftentimes we want to get hand-me-downs from maybe a family member that has children that have outgrown the seats, and that's great. And oftentimes you can do that because the expiration dates are usually 4, 5, 6 years down the road. But if those things start getting passed down for too long, then they can expire, and that can make them not safe. So what you want to do is make sure they are properly installed. If you're not sure how to do that, you can actually go to the state police, and they will show you and make sure that you know how to properly install those, and they'll check them for you to see if you've properly installed them to make sure that the kids are safe. Some of the saddest cases that we've had in my law practice has involved children being injured in car crashes, and they're vulnerable. They're little kids. They're still developing. Their brains are still developing, so they can be hurt very badly. But you give them a much better chance if you do properly install the child safety seats. And one of the things you can do too is, if you've got a choice between passenger side, driver side, or there's a middle seat, put them in the middle. So if you get a side impact into your car, they're furthest away from the impact if they're in the middle and they're not right there where the crunch is going to happen, perhaps, in the side of the vehicle. So that's something to remember as well. So hopefully those tips can maybe help you and keep your kids, grandkids a little bit safer. We need to take a break. When I come back, I'll have my guest, Mark Thomas, with me this week talking about all things Belmont County. Stay with us here on the Jamie Bordas Show.
Tractor trailers are some of the most dangerous vehicles on the road. There are federal rules for load sizes, driver's hours, and maintenance for a reason. When big rigs don't follow these rules, entire families can be torn apart. We have the talent and the resources to take on these large companies. Hopefully, through our work, families are being helped and trucking companies are getting the message about safety. Bordas and Bordas, fighting for justice.
So, how was your first day?
Long. So, Josh asked me about you.
Daddy's home. Go get him.
For your home, for your life, for more than 50 years. The Hardwood Specialists. DeNoon Lumber.
Welcome back to the show. This is my favorite time each week when I have a guest with me, and this week's guest is President of the Belmont County Commission, Mark Thomas. Mark, thanks for being here on the show.
My pleasure, Jamie. Thanks for having me.
A lot of things going on in Belmont County, and I guess the big news is, I know even this week there was a discussion about the effects that a potential cracker could have on the Ohio Valley in general, but particularly Belmont County, which is the location where they're talking about putting this plant down near Shadyside.
Yeah, it's progressing well. In fact, we were at an economic development conference here in Wheeling today talking about the potential cracker and its effects on both sides of the river. That's the most important thing about this whole project. We are cautiously optimistic that we will have a decision by the end of the year. It could very well be too, though, Jamie, that it would be in the first quarter of 2018. But we think right now, based upon what is happening, what has happened in all of 2017, that it will be a positive decision. And at the economic conference today, there was discussion about the benefits of both sides of the river. And I think that's the most important thing. For many years here in the Ohio Valley, there's been a divide, and that divide has been the Ohio River, which of course is the division of two states, the boundary of two states. However, we are one economy, and I think that the fusion behind this potential cracker plant really has brought economic development agencies, elected officials, and more importantly, the private sector together, working as one for the common goal, and that's a better Ohio Valley.
What are the benefits that we might expect to see from a cracker plant if it happens in Belmont County there? I mean, what's the net gain in terms of the economy, in terms of jobs, which is what people probably really care about?
Sure. Well, the initial gain is the fact that you're going to have the largest economic development project ever in the state of Ohio. You think about that for a long term, and you think about all the major corporations in Ohio. This project, from a monetary standpoint, roughly $6 billion, will dwarf any other project ever built in Ohio. You're talking thousands of construction jobs over a 5-year period. Those individuals working here, some living here, spending money in the economy in Belmont County, Monroe County, Ohio, Marshall counties. The trickle-down effect is enormous. You're talking about 500 to 600 permanent jobs, and then for when the building is, when the cracker plant's completed. And then the bigger thing is that people sometimes tend to forget is the downstream effect from each permanent job at the cracker plant. You're going to have companies coming in who are going to work either on the front end or on the tail end of this industry, who are either going to feed raw product to the cracker plant or use the net plastic resin end product that pretty much makes up everything in our economy. From cell phone covers to water bottles to windshield or dashboards in cars. It's all plastic, and that's all what's coming out of here. So you spread that out over the existing economy, businesses that are already here that are in that industry, combine that with new businesses, it's an endless amount of economy-driven jobs that will be very, very positive for the entire valley.
So, from the standpoint of a commissioner, I mean, obviously, there had to be discussions by you and your fellow commissioners to attract a international company to want to even look at this area. And of course, there were some reasons for them to look at this area. But what are those discussions like? I mean, how do you convince a company like that? Yeah, Belmont County is the right place for you to come and do this.
The good news is that this site that PTT is looking at now was the original and final site that Shell, Royal Dutch Shell, was looking at 5-6 years ago before they decided on building in Monaca, PA, upstream 75 miles. So this site has been on the petrochemical radar, and companies are aware of it. The benefits here is now that we are in the sweet spot of the shale industry. Belmont County being the highest producing gas wells in the state of Ohio, will continue to be with the rich deposits. Ohio River, Class A rail, I-70, State Route 7, Route 2, you could go on and on and on. And it comes down to infrastructure, Jamie. And what's happening is with these plants, all the current plants are in the Gulf, as you know. They're in Texas, out into Louisiana, and that product still has to be shipped to the Midwest and to the Northeast, still to this day, the greatest population base in this country. And what the petrochemical industry now is seeing is, why not move and build where we can take the gas or have the gas taken out of the ground to us, we produce what we produce, and then we have less shipping costs out to the Northeast through ports such as Pittsburgh and Baltimore. I don't want to say that it's an easy sell, but this is one instance where here in the Ohio Valley, we literally had the infrastructure and location that really sold itself.
We need to take a break. When we come back, we'll continue talking with Mark Thomas about other things happening in Belmont County. Stay with us here on the Jamie Bordas Show.
Disasters happen. Pick the team that takes care of them all. Powered by offices in Wheeling, Morgantown, and Pittsburgh, Panhandle Cleaning and Restoration is ready to handle any size emergency at a moment's notice. We have the right people, knowledge, and equipment to respond 24 hours a day.
I'm Dana Hogerson. When disaster strikes your home or business, tell your insurance provider you prefer the restoration company the Mountaineers call, Panhandle Cleaning and Restoration.
Fighting for homeowners.
Fighting for workers.
Fighting for children.
Fighting for mineral owners.
Fighting for patients.
Fighting for policyholders.
Bordas and Bordas, fighting for justice.
Welcome back to the show. I've been speaking with my guest this week, Mark Thomas, who's president of the Belmont County Commission. And Commissioner Thomas, we've talked about the potential for the cracker plant in Belmont County and the effects that could have, but there's a lot of other things going on in Belmont County too. People drive by, they see this new interchange that's going on out there by the mall, and maybe wondering, hey, what's the purpose of this, and what all's going on? You see the new BW3 across the way there, and
yes,
the hotel, and what's happening there?
Well, that project's moving along well. That's a partnership between ODOT, the Belmont County, and the city of St. Clairsville, along with some private partners, private sector partners. It's a great public-private partnership to build that road from the eastern end of St. Clairsville, US Route 40, across I-70. The bridge is being constructed now, going dissecting where that BW3 is in the Marriott Residence Inn, back to the western end of the Ohio Valley Mall. The scheduled completion date for that, believe it or not, is October 31st, 2018. However, the companies working there have been making some great progress, and it's been in line with the weather. The weather has been tremendous for them all summer. On the northern end of the project, which is the area behind Sam's Club and Lowe's, that road has been paved. The area out to Route 40, directly behind Sam's Club, the county built that road about 18 months ago, so that's been completed. That was our phase one project as far as our partnership. And they're making good progress on the bridge. And so what that's going to do for everyone that's out there looking is what's happening out there is that's going to alleviate and take some of the traffic, heavy traffic, off of Mall Road, which is the existing north-south road from US Route 40 down underneath Route 70 to the mall and in and around the mall. As the mall continues to grow, and it does, even in a tough retail industry right now, we need better access in and out. This road is going to provide those from the western part of Belmont County coming in via Route 40 to access the Ohio Valley Plaza and or the Ohio Valley Mall through this new road. The secondary reason behind it, which we hope to see, and we've already seen some of it, is it opens up over 100 acres for further economic development. So that project's going well. We have a senior housing project being built there now. Hard to see from the road, especially Interstate 70, but it's going to open by the end of the year, and it's going to be assisted and independent living for some of our seniors. That's the first project being built back behind Sam's Club. So
well, that'll be nice too, because some of those folks will still be able to, get out and do a little bit of shopping, not have to go real far to do it. So that's a nice concept there. Speaking of other things going on in Belmont County, I have an office, just catty corner from the courthouse in Belmont County, and was just having to look up when I was walking in the office the other day and at the courthouse and how great it looks. I mean, it is really, it is one of the finest, I think, courthouses, not just in the Valley, but I think in the entire state of Ohio, with how all the work you can tell has been put into making it look so grand. And of course, the old sheriff's residence is looking great too. That whole area right there is really coming along. Yeah, appreciate it very much. We just spent 1 year on a complete rehabilitation of the exterior of the courthouse. $2 million. The courthouse has, from the roof all the way down, the stone was cleaned, all the mortar around the entire building was sealed, redone. And the best part about it, Jamie, is no taxpayer dollars. The county used some of the monies that we get from Ohio's casinos. We have a casino fund that we have targeted for physical facility issues. And that $2 million restoration, no taxpayer dollars. That's great. We've moved on now. We're cleaning the old jail behind the sheriff's residence. So the next time you're in St. Clairsville, take a walk behind there. That's being done now. Part of it's a grant, and the rest of it is being used with casino funds. And we're going to have all those buildings completed at no taxpayer expense. Well, so we're proud of it. It looks great, and it's a real treasure. And I mean, my dad and I noticed it immediately. We looked up and like, boy, look how much nicer that looks even than it did a couple years ago. And it's always been a great courthouse, and always, you can see it even from the interstate. You can see it sits up on the hill there so high, and it's really cool how you can see it from just about anywhere passing through. But really looks nice now, so it'll be looking good in time for the Christmas parade, which is not too far off now. I think November 19th, moved to a Sunday this year. Yeah, I was going to say, it's only 30 days out. It's hard to believe. It's this nice weather. You're kind of thinking you're not in, you're still in late spring or late summer, but it's, we're there. So before we have to go, any other big things happening around the county? No, well, today, real quickly, we just announced a public-private partnership to increase broadband internet to some of the rural parts of the county. Again, not only for our residents, which was our primary reason, but a secondary economic development source. That's an infrastructure item just as important as roads and bridges and water and sewer. So we're proud to announce that at our today's commission meeting. That's great. Yeah, that's really helped so many people to be able to connect in it's today's world. You got to have that technology. Yes. And people may not know that in addition to being a commissioner, you're also one of the co-owners of Ye Olde Alpha restaurant in Wheeling, and of course famous for not only the food but also all the animals up on the wall, and so many people enjoy checking those out. But you've been at that for a while now too, with your friend Charlie Schlegel that you own that with, and always one of the favorites in the Wheeling area. Well, the Alpha celebrating 85 years this year in the city of Wheeling, and it's a joy to be a part of it, because not only to be able to serve food and have great service, but
to a lot of people in the Ohio Valley, not just limited to the city of Wheeling, the Alpha's been a place where they've come and congregated for years, and people are coming and having great dining experiences and they're having good times and meeting friends and meeting family. And that just gives me great pleasure to see, because you know we're in the business to serve food and serve the people, but when they're coming and telling us thanks for keeping the Alpha going, it's a Wheeling institution, and I'm just elated to be a part of it.
Well, thanks for being here today. I really appreciate you coming on the show. Good luck with everything you're doing there in Belmont County. We need to take a break. When we come back, I'll be talking sports. Stay with us here on the Jamie Bordas Show.
We're Panhandle Cleaning and Restoration, and we're gonna save you. We've got it down to a science, an absolute state of art. We do it all, restoration, cleaning, and reconstruction. When disaster strikes, just pick up the phone. We're Panhandle Cleaning and Restoration, and we're gonna save you.
Don't forget to do your homework.
All right, Mom. Trick or treat.
Here you go. Happy Halloween.
For your home, for your life, for more than 50 years. DeNoon Lumber.
Welcome back to the show. It's time to talk sports, and we'll start off with college football. I have hit some upset picks the last couple weeks, 5 out of 6 the last 2 weeks. Last week I was 2 for 2. I gave you WVU over Texas Tech, and it gave you LSU over Auburn. Both teams had to have big comebacks in the second half, but I got them both right. WVU, of course, down 18 points to Texas Tech and stormed back at Mountaineer Field at Milan Puskar Stadium to get the big win over Texas Tech. And then also LSU down 20-0 against Auburn and came roaring back in the second half to win that game, just as I said they would. So 2 for 2 last week on the upset picks. This week my big upset pick that I'm going to give you is the Naval Academy over number 20 ranked University of Central Florida. I like Navy's offense. I like their option. The fact that they grind it out. They have a great, the best rushing offense in the country, really, and they keep the ball away from you. So I like the Naval Academy, especially at home, over number 20 ranked Central Florida this week. So that's my upset pick this week. Let's set out your college football day for you. At noon, Oklahoma State is going to be at Texas on ABC. Texas, really came close last week in the Red River rivalry to knocking off Oklahoma, but couldn't get it done. I think same thing this week, although I think the score's a little bit bigger. I think Texas used up all that energy last week. I think they're going to have a tough time this week at home against Oklahoma State. I like the Cowboys in that one. Remember, the Cowboys were one of my preseason picks to go to the college football playoff. They're still alive. I had Alabama still looking okay. Notre Dame, if they win out, they're in. That's a big if. They got a lot of tough games left, 5 ranked opponents left. Ohio State, who's still very much in the mix if they can knock off the teams that they have still remaining after that early season loss to Oklahoma. And then I have Oklahoma State, who suffered a loss but is still in the mix. So I like Oklahoma State this week. Then at 3:30, I suggest you just go outside and enjoy the nice day. Take in the sun. But if you feel like you have to watch college football, just check out how good Alabama is. At 3:30 right here on CBS, Tennessee at number 1 ranked Alabama. Alabama rolls in this one, but you can see how good the Tide is this year, and they're playing with a chip on their shoulder. They don't like the fact that they let that game get away last year in the national championship game to Clemson. They're an awfully tough team to beat. Then the night games, the big ones. At 7:30, number 11 ranked USC at number 13 Notre Dame. I like the Irish in this one. As I said at the beginning of the year, I think Notre Dame wins over the tough teams on their schedule and really makes an effect on the college football playoff because they've got a chance to beat some conference champs in USC, in Stanford, in Miami, Florida, in NC State now. It's looking. So they've got Michigan State even still in the mix for perhaps a conference title, although they got some big games left to play. But I like the Irish in this one, especially the night game in South Bend. They always play USC tough at home, and so I like the Irish in this one. Then also at 7:30, over on ABC, number 19 ranked Michigan at number 2 ranked Penn State. Penn State better be careful. They've been living on the edge a little bit a couple times this year, but I think Happy Valley, just like Notre Dame in South Bend, it's going to be loud up there in Happy Valley, in that night game. They're going to be roaring. I mean, it starts bouncing off the mountain. I went to camp up there when I was going to my senior year in high school, and I was a quarterback. They actually made you say your cadence loud enough that it would bounce off of both mountains, and if you weren't loud enough, if it didn't echo off of both mountains. When you get 90, 100,000 people all yelling at the same time, it's going to be loud. Believe me, I'll take the Nittany Lions in that one. And then also 8 o'clock, number 23 ranked WVU at Baylor. I think WVU gets it done. Baylor not having a good season at all. That program's gone through a lot of turmoil in the last year, and WVU will get it done this week. So I like the Mountaineers in that one. Turning to professional football, the Steelers got the job done against the Chiefs last week in Kansas City, like I said they would. Le'Veon Bell got the ball. When he runs the ball a bunch of times, give it to him 25 times or more, they're going to have great success. And of course, a great one-handed catch off a deflection by Antonio Brown for a touchdown toward the end of the game, and the big sack by James Harrison, who we haven't seen much of this year. But boy, when they put him in the game there toward the end, he got after Alex Smith, the quarterback of the Chiefs. But now more drama this week for the Steelers, with Martavis Bryant apparently wanting to be traded because he's not getting the ball left, being replaced in a lot of packages by Juju Smith-Schuster at wide receiver. And, the Steelers are saying everything's fine, but it's something every week with the Steelers this year. And I don't know what's going on, because over the years, the Steelers have always been an organization that's had a lot of calm and a lot of consistency to them. And this year, it seems every week, whether it's AB and Ben battling, whether it's Bell holding out, whether it's the thing with the whole issue with Villanueva out in front of the rest of the team for the national anthem, now Martavis Bryant. But I think the Steelers this week, they get the Bengals, who aren't playing great football. It's at Heinz Field. The Steelers defense will play tough. I like the Steelers by 11 in this one. And the Green Bay Packers, lose Aaron Rodgers, likely for the year with a broken collarbone. They were my pick to come out of the NFC and go to the Super Bowl. I don't like them now to go to the Super Bowl. I mean, you lose Aaron Rodgers, you're losing perhaps one of the top 2 or 3 players in the NFL. And he's gone for the year, and he just changes the whole complexion of that team. I now like the Carolina Panthers to come out of the NFC. So I'll say it now, the first week after Aaron Rodgers is hurt, I like the Panthers to come out, but I'll still take the Steelers to win the Super Bowl this year. And speaking of injuries, the NBA, what an opening night. Gordon Hayward, first game as a Boston Celtic with a gruesome dislocated ankle and broken tibia in the first game, and the Celtics lose to the Cavs. And then the nightcap, the Warriors squander a big lead to the Houston Rockets, and Kevin Durant hits a buzzer beater, but it doesn't count, was still in his hand. Swaggy P, the high scorer for the Warriors, amazingly, in his first game as a Warrior. They'll get the ship righted. I like the Warriors to repeat over the Cavs this year to win the NBA championship. We'll keep seeing that Warriors-Cavs matchup, and I like the Warriors again this year. The Thunder will make some noise, but not enough. That's all the time we have this week. Thanks for joining in. We'll see you again next week on The Jamie Bordas Show.